All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. When should we start to sell our Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies? That's the topic of today's video. I've got a lot of data and analysis to get through with you, along with some strategies that you can take away for yourself. On top of that, I will get to the elephant in the room, our beloved XRP and ADA. And of course, if you are a trader, you'll understand that this is not about communities. We have seen what happens when you believe in communities over many cycles. Basically, you get screwed. So in this video, I want to explain to you what I've seen over the last 2 cycles into my 3rd cycle now with cryptocurrencies, and I guess how I've played them in the past, and hopefully you can take away some of that wisdom and knowledge for yourself and apply it however you see fit to make the most from the markets that you possibly can in this cycle. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new here. Each of the day's analysis builds upon the previous day, and we are your home of macro cycle analysis. For this video, I won't be going through the real estate cycle and the stock markets. I'm going to focus primarily on Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, looking at some signals, some indicators, tools that I use when it comes to analyzing the markets. And you guys that have been following for years, you've probably seen how this has worked out, and I'll show you an example of years gone by on how I've used these same signals and indicators to get into the market and out of the market. So that's a great place to get on with our agenda for today. The first 2 I've covered in the previous video, which I'll leave a link to at the end of this video, looking at the biggest pump in history. It went bananas. That was from Friday, but it relates, or it's useful for this month and 2025, going into the peak of that cycle. So we'll leave that till later on, but that will help with this particular cycle, this cryptocurrency cycle. So we don't need to go over the same analysis from that video in today's video. As I said, just looking at the altcoins today. As for traditional finance, I'll go through that in videos this week. So make sure you are subscribed or have notifications turned on. The link in the video description plus the pinned comment will get you access to that Cyber Monday sale. A couple of issues came up last week, but it was just overloaded with support from you guys. So thanks very much. Let's continue on with the agenda here. Market sentiment. We'll get through that and then have a look at Bitcoin for the macro cycle here. So I've got the market sentiment up. Just looking at Google Trends for today, we do see XRP is going bananas. And I'll get to some timing with that in a moment. Bitcoin also on a little bit of an uptrend here, but of course peaked out in mid-November. We're now into December as well, so we've got a December video coming up. Crypto on the way up, and the green one here is DOGE. But the main talking point today for basically everyone in crypto is XRP. Really hot topic today. And why wouldn't it be? It's at $2.40, basically $1.10 short of a new all-time high, so it could potentially get there. And the other hot topic is that it overtook Solana in the market caps. Now, as I'm filming this, it's overtaken USDT as well. But this has been a pretty hot topic about XRP overtaking Solana. But I think, well, the first point I should mention is you really want to be focused on what gains you're getting. Now, if you got in the last month, in November, fantastic. I was wrong. You were right for your trading. But I think if you got in the last month, you're probably a trader and you're entering these sort of positions as they break out past previous resistance levels. So you're potentially following the charts and watching how the resistance levels are getting taken out, and you're following this to the upside. Hopefully you've got some signals in there to take out some profits. And if you don't, I've got you covered in today's video. That's just to have a look at the market sentiment. Obviously you're seeing lots and lots of search term or search volume for XRP. Doge has had a tiny little bit here, but it's really testing the search volume for Bitcoin at the moment because everyone's talking about it. So why are we talking about it? Well, it's breaking to new all-time highs, but what I see is it's because of the Bitcoin cycle, of course. Bitcoin has broken to new all-time highs. It has closed at a new all-time high, and it looks like we've got further upside to go for BTC. I didn't mention at the beginning of the video that this could trigger some folks who are a little bit too involved or too wrapped up in community aspects. This is not about communities. It's not about what you feel and think about the projects, because essentially these things basically all do round trips, Bitcoin included. We go up, we come back down, 70, 80%. Maybe Bitcoin will be different this time, but it might be different in terms of how far it pulls back. Maybe it does 60, 65, 70% after the peak and then the pullback. We just don't know for sure. No one knows for sure. We need to see where this top comes in and basically what the strength and weakness is like on the way down. But in terms of this Bitcoin chart that I've got here, looking at the final boss stage of the market, we are now into the right-hand side of the cycle. So this was one big thing that I brought to you guys in 2023, looking at the left and the right translated cycle. In each of the previous cycles, except for the 2016-2017 peak, there was a pretty big run up in the first half of the cycle. The cycle goes from the low to the low. So that's what I'm measuring here. Low to the next low, low to the next low, and then wherever this next low comes in, that's where we're measuring to. And within that first half, the first 2 years of it, because it's roughly around 4 years, if you get a peak and that's the top price for that cycle and it falls from there, then you've got a left translated cycle. So that just essentially means we're looking at the strength and the weakness of the cycle. If it does top out in the left and then continue to fall through that right side, or top out in the left and only give you a lower top in the right, that's a very, very weak market. And so that's all we're assessing here. And so each of those previous times we had, for 2 out of the 3 previous times, we had fears of this cycle being topped out in the left-hand side, and that didn't eventuate. I can only imagine that's what it was like in 2011, because that was a massive, massive run from a few cents up to $32 for that peak. And then it took months until it was able to recover and get to a new all-time high. This cycle, a similar sort of thing happened. We saw March peak, and that was a lot of fears around a left translated cycle, basically running up for a short period of time, going down for a longer period of time compared to the time that it went up. That hasn't happened again. So I suspect, no one knows for sure, I'm just looking at my own analysis here, that we're running into a final peak sometime in 2025. So that's what I'm looking at here when it comes to the final boss, the grand final. So really, if you are making some gains, fantastic. Make the gains, take it off the table. Don't just leave it in paper profits. Maybe a lot of us, including myself, are going to get out way too early because of the PTSD from previous cycles, right? But maybe we should just leave a little bit on the table to see how it runs into this final peak, especially if we're seeing much, much bigger upside for the 18-year cycle. Why this is important, and especially with our altcoins as they run up and everyone's sort of talking about it. Here's XRP surging to flip market coins and Dogecoin, and Ethereum ETF, is Ethereum about to take off, which it did close a really strong month. We don't want to get drunk on all of these gains. I know it's very easy to get drunk on them, but ideally we don't want to do that. And to not do that, the way I've found, entirely up to you whether you use it or not, is just take a little bit of profits off the table just to feel what that is like. The objective part is to use the rules. Then you have to balance that out with your feeling, because at the end of the day, trading can be a lot of art. It is a lot of feeling, but to stop the feelings, you got to use some sort of objective plan. And that could be something like your swing indicator breaking down. It could be something where you've got 50% levels breaking down. You could just get out if the market drops back under previous resistance levels. That is a pretty good sign that things are changing. We haven't seen anything like that yet for BTC, and we actually had a pretty reasonable week, all things considered. We had a low volume test of the the low 90s, high 80s almost, and then the close was quite high. So you are still getting a little bit of buy back here, but still there's no sign that the market wants to take off yet or break down. So all things considered, not such a bad week. Now, in terms of the example that I want to give you here, before I get onto the true altcoin market cap, is Solana. So Solana was a big one from last cycle. I find it one of the easiest ones just to have a look at as an example here, because I was able to buy it on the breakouts of the weekly swings. It pumped up. I posted about selling some, got ridiculed for selling because of communities, because of what it could do, because of anything else that people can throw at you. And yes, it went higher. because at the end of the day, I'm not trying to buy the low and sell the top. I just want to take some profits out of the middle. 5x, 10x, whatever it is, it's a profit. I'm happy with that. And the profit means it has been converted into USDT. And ideally, at least you could take some into fiat, the dirty fiat term. The only reason for that is, well, you've got to live for one, and you never know what happens within crypto. You don't know if USDT is going to stick around. You don't know if USDC is going to stick around. Like last cycle, a lot of people took profits into UST. UST was the Terra Luna stablecoin, which eventually collapsed and went to zero. So paying 30% tax in Australia, if you set up in a company, paying 40, 50% tax, I don't know wherever you are around the world, maybe you're paying 0% tax, but you'd much rather pay 50% tax than end up at zero. That's the main thing there. You do what you want with it. At the end of the day, it's entirely your decision. So we're just looking at swing breakouts here, and these happen to be much clearer when the trend gets going, as we'll see with XRP as well. So I want to give you a few of the strategies here. This is the selling stuff. I talked about it in the title, so at least let's start to answer that in the video now. Now that's entry. Exiting can be as simple as exiting on the breakdown of the swing. And what you can do on the way up is actually move your stops up to the next swing bottom, up to the next swing bottom, up to the next swing bottom. And then when the swing bottom is broken, that's where you exit. So you're not trying to get the top, and there's no way I'm buying the exact bottom, but that doesn't matter because I'm making profit through the middle. And that's a very legitimate strategy that I know a lot of people use, including our traders over here, even as they just get started. Huey, I know it's only a demo trade, but I applied Gann's rules, which is what I'm talking about here with the swing chart, to my first ever trade in TIA, and this is what I ended up with. So congrats to you guys that are using the rules very simply to start out with, and then you can start to add a few little layers here and there that improve your profitability along the way. So congrats to the 80% and everyone else that is actually making profits here, hundreds of percent, sometimes thousands of a percent, but nonetheless, a profit is a profit, and it doesn't matter which coin you're on. I think 99% of us are here to take the profits from the community, well, from communities, and then go and do whatever it is you want to do with them. Buy houses, buy cars, buy holidays, pay off your wife, or make wife-changing money, if I could throw a dad joke in there. So that was one of the strategies. The second strategy I did and posted about it, the breakdown at 50% after the top comes in, or even the weekly swing chart begin to break down as well. On top of that is a great exit point. And that was at around 130 bucks. So on the way up, I saw some big extreme greed happening in the market. It was too much for me. I had to get out. I don't like being in the market when there is a lot of extreme greed. So I take some profits. Maybe I take 10%. Maybe I take 20%, 30%, entirely up to you. The same thing on the way down, but this is where I get far more aggressive on taking profits. If I haven't taken enough of profits on the way up out of the market, when this thing breaks 50%, I'm basically all out. And that's for altcoins. We'll leave Bitcoin for another time, but just talking about altcoins today because that's the main focus for this video. And that was at around 130 bucks. You know it, especially being on YouTube and X and so on. When this Sol went back up to 130 and then 143, they all came at me again saying, you're an idiot, you shouldn't have sold out, get back into the trade, or you're just a fool overall. But then you can see exactly from the following week, slam back down, and it just went on a massive, massive drop, lower and lower. And so that's 50% down from the top, but it's better than holding the thing all the way down. So that was just some really simple rules, because it's basically mathematical. Low to high, straight through the middle, get out if it breaks 50%. That is overly simplified of how to look at things, but I think that's a great place to start, especially if you're new, and then you can start to add things on top to make the plan even better for yourself. Now, plans can evolve over time, and this has evolved for me. One rule in particular I was using at the time was when Bitcoin began to break down from its high and things looked like the cycle was over. That's when I really started to get out of a lot of altcoins around November and December of 2021. As you can see, this was happening to Solana as well through November and December, beginning to break down, overbalances in time and price. So if you want to learn about that and how to implement it in your own trading plans, get on board with the now Cyber Monday sale. It's only got a couple of days left, and then it's all over for another year. So that's looking at multiple signals there to help us identify the lows and the highs. And we recently just did it on Bitcoin as well, on the overbalance in time and price on the way up. That was this move here. That was an overbalance in time and price to the upside. I showed you on the channel, and now look at what Bitcoin has done from that point. So if you're using this in your markets, in your own individual markets, then you can apply it to each of those other cryptos to see how it's moving in terms of time. Now I'll get to time with XRP in just a moment, but we'll have a look at the true altcoin market cap and ETH BTC as another confirming signal or breakdown signal for the altcoin markets as well. The main one I want to focus on here, because I've covered a lot of other things in the past, is the timing aspect. Now the time from the higher swing low to the major run was 5 months. I'm on a monthly chart here just to keep things nice and broad. That was about 5 months of significant gains. That was pretty much just eyeballing it, 85 to 90% of the entire gains through that cycle from 2019 into the peak of 2021. You can see the top and the low. That's where the physical low is, and the physical top, say it's roughly 85 to 90% of the gains. Happened all within 5 months, even though the entire move lasted about 27 months. So 5 into 27, you do the maths, maybe it's like 20% of the time, something like that, right? If that happens again, then you've only got about 20% of the time to make the move. And this is the important point when it comes to, say, something like XRP, which is very popular at the moment. In no way, shape, or form, and I'm trying to tell you to sell everything now, not at all, but just be aware of timeframes and how things work out, especially when the emotion gets super high, especially when the search volume gets extremely high. And I tested it this morning, putting up a post about XRP and Sol, as that's basically what is trending on X at the moment. You can see here XRP, flipping Solana and all that sort of stuff. So when you see that as well, you know a lot of people are talking about it. It doesn't mean it's the top. I've always said I'm not trying to get the top. I think all these coins are going to pump. It's just a matter of how much they pump. And a really good point that was made as well is about opportunity cost. And so like these guys have done, where they've said here they've held ADA and XRP, traded it for other performing assets, and made more than what XRP and ADA went up. So it's just your own opportunity cost. If you're making gains, great, but it's entirely up to you. Like I said in the intro, if you'd bought early on, that's a great trade. So you made hundreds of a percent on XRP in a matter of weeks. But if you'd held for 5, 6, 7 years, it's a totally different story. And that's the opportunity cost that you, I guess, don't want to screw up in these alt seasons, because as we've looked at, when it comes to time, they only really pump for a matter of months compared to being down for a matter of years. So it's a similar sort of thing again. You've got the tops here to where that breakout point is. That's about 156 months. So that's 3 years. Or if you wanted to get the exact bottom, it was just over 2 years, right? For the upside, from that breakout point, you have about 1 year to go. So 3 years of down and sideways for 1 year of major pumps. And I'm measuring it from that pump point because that's the time when everyone thinks that the alt season is basically on. They're sort of asking here in January, and it was basically on for January and February. That's the time when people are like, oh, is it on? Am I missing out? And that's those final months of the cycle. You can see how much volume is actually included through those peaks. So do you want to be in it for 75% of the time hoping and waiting, or get in it for the 25% of the time? Again, entirely up to you. Same sort of thing happened here. You can see for XRP, 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks, we're into the 5th week. So before I get too far ahead of myself, because that is a very important point about the XRP timing, I know I've said that already, ETH BTC, looking at the timing here, maybe there is the 5 months. If we look at 5 months out, just as a time frame, let's look at around March, April to see how this bull market carries out to that time frame. Then we can reassess, because the altcoin bull market wasn't over. It just took a massive breather. If you were in the market in May 2021, you know the extreme pain that a lot of people felt. That downside was incredible. It was 50, 80% for some altcoins. Remember, this is an ETH BTC chart. So ETH was going down, Bitcoin was going down, and ETH went down more than BTC during that particular drop. That is this drop right here, right? And so when we're looking at the ETH BTC chart, you had this next final pump into the top. and a lot of altcoins also did pop off at that time. So there were multiple opportunities within that 12-month period. Shows up here on the total cryptocurrency market cap as well. But usually at the bottoms, it's very difficult to figure out whether it's on or not, which is why I use the swing indicator to identify whether we're breaking out or if it's a weak recovery, right? If it is able to break the swing tops, then you're able to get in with the trend. And that's what's happened here with Ethereum at the moment, breaking past all those tops. Obviously, we've been covering this on the channel, and it is now getting close to breaking past the next tops. These are the next three things that everyone's looking at: the downtrend, the horizontal here, and the tops coming in at roughly $4,000. So I'll cover this in more detail in future videos. Otherwise, this one's going to go on a little too long. But ideally, you'd start to see this head up, and you're beginning to hear the narratives of ETH AI and ETH memes and all of this stuff coming back to life. But of course, the price started to come back to life about 4 weeks ago. Back to our agenda, and points 1 through to 8 have been covered off, and we've touched on 9 and 10, which we're going to dive into next. So that's Solana, right? We've head up to the all-time highs, and we're already seeing breakouts on the swing chart. So again, the same rules apply here: swing top, break out of the swing top, break out again. That's this yellow line. And I didn't mention what that was at the intro, so apologies about that. That's your swing indicator suite. It's the GAN swing indicator, a fantastically helpful tool to help you enter, exit, protect profits, take losses if need be, if the chart breaks down. And that's part of the Cyber Monday sale as well with TIA Premium. So go check that out after this video. So that's a look at Sol, doing very, very similar things. Big volume here as well. Looks like it's winding up again. We'll cover this in the next videos. As for Doge, same sort of thing as well. If you chuck on the Swing Pro indicator, look at the swing tops coming in right before the major move. Swing tops, swing bottoms, the breakout, and you can also use your 50% levels for an added entry point. You can see it got slightly rejected here, then here, another test. You can see the weekly close was under it, and then it's basically pumped above that level. So you're just looking for extra entries at that point. Right now, it could keep going higher, but in terms of the risk reward, that's what you got to weigh up for yourself. Maybe you like the idea of aiming for 100% to get to 90 cents, but do recall or do note that these entry points have been down at around 12 and 13 cents, now at 45. It's possible. I'm not saying don't get in, I'm not saying buy or sell or whatever, not financial advice. We're just looking at the strength and weakness and what the charts have done before when they get into these pretty parabolic phases. Now they can keep going. Look at the last one in 2021. Big move up, but it consolidated. That was a healthy sign there. One big move swing there, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then broke out on the 11th. So 2.5 months of consolidation, and then the breakout. It doesn't have to happen exactly the same like that, but keep in mind the time frames moving forward. So that leads me on to XRP first. Timing is everything, and then I'll have a look at ADA. And we've touched on a lot of the selling strategies as well earlier in the video. So XRP, this one is a fantastic one to review. And I've showed this on the channel before, looking at time frames that XRP likes to do. This is just how the community rolls. This is how traders in XRP roll. Lows to highs, lows, let's use this one because it's actually happened. Lows to highs, lows to highs. Let me chuck on the logarithmic. This one is a false signal there on Binance back in 2017 when the volume was quite low. So ignore that wick. But you got the low to the high, 52 weeks, 57 weeks, 56 weeks. What if we do another 52-ish weeks? That's around June, or we take it out to 56, 57. That's around July. That's if this is the correct starting point. And we'll get to firm that up as the cycle carries out in terms of the time frames. That's the longer look here. So I like to start with the longer look for the timing. It could go a lot higher. Maybe it does take out $10. Maybe it gets to $589. Who the hell knows? I doubt it, but maybe it does. The next point is the time frames to the upside. And this happens for all markets. So whether you trade XRP or not, up to you. But in terms of the rules, you can see it happen in markets all around the globe commodities, indices, cryptos have some of the best examples here as well. And we're just looking at the amount of weeks to the upside, or you could do it to the downside too, but in terms of the upside, before you get a pause or a significant correction. So let's have a look at that on the linear scale. And I got the first one here, 5 weeks. But let's start a little earlier in terms of the pump areas. 1, 2, 3, 4. So low to high, and the swing chart again helps us out with identifying where these lows are before we get the breakout and then the peak. So that was 4 weeks. We had 5 weeks here. We have from the low to the high, 7 weeks, or to the breakout, you have 2 weeks. 2 weeks of really, really big moves. When this top comes in, most will say it's not over. That was a very, very big correction, and then the following week, massive correction. You can see that it has the hallmarks of an overbalance in time or in price, but not yet time. Time needs to play out first. Price, overbalance, biggest correction in the entire move. So it's starting to tell you that some of the momentum is slowing and you might be cautious. It might be worthwhile being cautious with your investments right now. Big, big swings. This is also hallmarks of Wyckoff distribution, where you start to see quite wide swings at the top, basically people distributing, smart money distributing, and then you get the breakdown, the retest of the underside, and then basically down again. In terms of the time, that won't feel like the end. This might not feel like the end here, but you'll definitely have a disgusting feeling in your gut when this bar comes around. And that was about 5 weeks after the top, 4 to 5 weeks after the top. So if you can take a few profits, great. You can see the weekly chart broke down from that point and it broke out on that point there. So in terms of the profit overall, at the easiest mechanical level, that was 200%. But as XRP holders would know, this was the SEC cycle that they got held down through the SEC. This time is different, and yeah, it is. They're not being held down by the SEC this time. So we'll have to wait and see whether this thing continues higher. But in terms of timing, so far, low to the high, you're at 6 weeks. So that's starting to tell us something. The most it's ever done is roughly around 7 to 8 weeks, and we could go back and test each of these lows to the tops. There's 11. However, the move, which is what you're interested in, low to high, is at 7. That went slightly higher, but I want to look at where is the energy and how many weeks or how much time does the crowd have the energy for XRP. And so often it comes up with that sort of 2, 3, 4 weeks, and then also the 5, 6, 7. So you've got these short periods, the longer periods, and then those happen within the longer cycle themselves. Around that sort of year mark, 13-month mark. There's your 56 weeks. What happened within the 56 weeks? The low to the high, 2 weeks. And then the market came right back down and went flat. It was able to do it again. Low to high, 3 weeks. Came back down, went flat. One last pump into the top, and that lasted all of 1 big week, came right back down. Now, you can say, but this isn't the same sort of time as this. Okay, great. Let's have a look at 2017. And we'll do this rather quickly because I think you get the point. The final peak, December, low to top was 4 weeks, 28 days. What about this peak here? This is when I first got my XRP at 3.5 cents. Low to high. I was over the moon like you guys. I was getting you 1,600%, more than these XRP people are getting now. That was around 3.5 cents to 46 cents. But did I sell? No. I round tripped the thing. I went up and then I came back down as well. Bought a little more. I sold out some. I made a profit, but nowhere near enough profit that this market gave through that period of 3.5 cents from where I got in to that peak there. That was a 10,000% return that I didn't get in my first cycle because I was stupid. What else can you say? So we're just looking at these time frames here. Looking at the lows to the highs, 3 weeks, and then corrected for 3 weeks and started the next journey. So hopefully you can start to see how cyclical these markets can be when they get going, how you can start to get in when they break out, and how you can get out when they break down, more importantly. And finally, we have Cardano or ADA. You've got your 50% levels on the way up. You've got your weekly swing breaks. It has gone on a pretty significant run in terms of timing, similar sorts of things. However, what I've noticed is it does slightly longer. It likes to do these slightly longer drags into the top, maybe by a week or two, but I would definitely go back and test each of those timings for yourself, just in case you find discrepancies here. You look at the low to the high. See you go, another slightly longer one here, 8 to 9, and then basically nothing for a long period. And then the final move, you got the low to the high, 6 weeks here into the peak before things started to break down. Swing bottom started to break, 50% levels began to break. You could use this from the low over here, and the 50% was slightly lower. So it's the same thing, rinse and repeat. I don't think we're at this stage yet. I think we're something more like this, but keep an eye on timing as we lead into that final peak. They do like to do their sort of 5 to 8 week runs, and typically towards the peak, you will see this come up. You'll also see a lot of comments and headlines coming up about their market caps, but it's up to you as to whether you want to take profits or you want to keep holding on for the ride. So if 2025 is your cycle, but you still need a little help understanding the markets and setting up your own trading plans to make sure you get out with some profits and not ride XRP all the way up and then all the way back down like I did in 2017. Check out TIA Premium. The links are in the top of the video description. That is for our Cyber Monday sale. 48 hours to go. Get that along with the TIA indicator suite. And I'll see you guys back here at the next video. The last thing I wanted to share with you was the XRP versus BTC chart. And this is a really important one to have a look at for understanding what profits you've made in terms of the risk you've taken on board for getting into altcoins versus BTC. Now, if you heard this all before, just like the video, head over to the next one. But if you haven't, check out this chart, put it on to percentage, and then you can see where the altcoin came out and whether it's in negative or in positive, provided you're on the alt versus BTC. Right now, XRP is still down 56% from Bitcoin, against Bitcoin in terms of Bitcoin's gains from the same time that XRP came out. That's what Bitcoin looks like now. This is what XRP looks like now. That's the gains. And the point about this is holding altcoins long term generally are going to show a negative return versus BTC. Short-term trading, maybe it's on the hourlies, the dailies, the weeklies, can be a great thing, just like XRP has been from the last 3 to 4 weeks from that exact low. So in that case, fine, I was wrong. But if it can get back to zero, then it has done the same gains that Bitcoin has done throughout its entire life cycle. So at the end of the day, it's entirely up to you and your time horizon, whether you hold this thing for years, whether you bought in at the tops. And if you did buy in at the tops, then you have to get all the way back up to wherever that buy-in level was. And sometimes it's unrealistic that it could get there. It's not impossible. It's just stacking the odds against you rather than with you. And of course, trading is hard on its own, and you'd rather not stack the odds against you, as difficult as some things can be. I think XRP thinks it can get back up there. Maybe it can. We'll continue to follow the journey here. Like and subscribe. I'll see you guys back at the next video. Till then, take care and peace out.